Have you ever wondered what would happen if Saitama were in the world of My Hero Academia? Would he one punch All Might, one for all? Mineta? Would the pro heroes panic that he exists? Well, wonder no more. We can see a world where this happens in my multiversal library. So pull up a chair as I take you to the world of what if Saitama showed up in My Hero Academia? It is a typical afternoon for a not so typical hero. The hero known as Caped Baldy is spending a day in his apartment, although to the ones who know him well, Caped Baldy is referred to as Saitama. Saitama is sitting on a cushion, a look of frustration on his face, mashing at a video game controller, while beside him is a battle-scarred, intimidating-looking man calmly executing button presses. Saitama, you're just button mashing and relying on auto combo. You gotta switch it up with grabs at least. Shut up, King. You stay too far away for me to grab. I can't focus anyway with this damn mosquito bothering me either. Saitama continues to aggressively bash the A button on his controller, all the while failing to swat the pest buzzing around him. King, did you leave out leftover pizza or something? You must have planned this to distract me. Saitama yells out as his video game character, an extremely muscular old bald man, is being roughed up by a tiny blonde pixie wearing a green dress that was the size of a napkin. Saitama, I did order some pizza last night, but... King turns his head at Saitama, looking serious and menacing. I don't need tricks to beat scrub tactics. Now take this. Ultimate Friendship Akashic Arts Technique. Titania. Suddenly, the muscular old bald man, who was simply being slapped around, gazed upon the pixie. Hearts began to cover the screen as the old man looked on. The game now beginning to play a cutscene where the pixie began to do a little dance. Once the pixie finished shaking and gyrating her hips, she announced to the players at home, Everyone, thank you. Your feelings are reaching me. I can feel it. Here I go. Ultimate Friendship Akashic Arts Technique, Titania. The pixie, now accelerating and flying around at inhuman speeds, darted across the edges of the game screen. Whack, whack, crash. Each tackle across the monitor damaging the old man for what the game states is a 56-hit ultra combo. The match was soon over. A victory screen began to play as the pixie lets out a "Teehee, friendship is magic." Saitama looks at this victory screen, completely seething. As if a gorilla rage built inside of him, Saitama proceeded to stomp around and yell out curses towards the game. No skill bullshit trash game. Who even plays this garbage? I bet everyone dropped playing this already. As Saitama rages and King looks at him completely deadpan, the two fail to notice something about the mosquito that was buzzing around Saitama earlier. It had been enveloped in a golden warm light, a light whose warmth could be said felt like a benevolent presence. The mosquito, as if possessed by this light, moved extremely fast towards Saitama's bald head and began to suck on it. However, instead of only sucking up blood, the fly swallowed Saitama whole. Whoosh! This happened in an instant, King only processing, seeing a bright light, and afterwards the disappearance of Saitama. King stands there, scratching his head. After a while, King speaks out loud his interpretation of what happened. Saitama, you rage quit again. I couldn't see you leave, but I've been blinded by your shiny head before. Your power is so great, yet it really doesn't transfer over to video games, does it? Saitama found himself floating in black void, with a colorful arrangement of cosmic energy streaks rushing through the space. Whispers began to emanate somewhere through the void. The speakers unseen. Who is he? Concept of a hero. Does he even need it? Saitama, with his usual uninterested face, took in the sight of the void around him. The black empty space that only had psychedelic colored streaks of energy to light it, and stated, Are you voices like monsters or something? This is like a sci-fi manga type of a power deal. I'm impressed, actually. Pretty cool. Saitama continues to float around, receiving no response from the voices. Saitama waits and waits, hoping for anything to talk back. It is when Saitama begins to feel impatient. The void began to tremble, the rainbow of colored streaks beginning to coalesce together, causing a cosmic explosion. Saitama's uninterested face began to be engulfed in the flash of light caused by those colliding energy streaks, as if being sank into by an unfathomable, colossal tidal wave of light. His body started to fade away, impossible to perceive. Yet through all of this, Saitama never changed his bored looking expression. Once the flash bang explosion of light had subsided, what was Saitama's body materialized in a what seemed to be the standard city alleyway, trash strewn about the concrete floor. Saitama had materialized facing a poster with a burly man with golden flowing hair giving a thumbs up. The tagline below the portrait of the muscled figure reading, "Anyone can be a hero. Don't litter. Be like All Might." Saitama took in his surroundings. Trash, drainage, gutter, pipes. The only thing of note was this poster he was facing. After looking at this poster, Saitama thought to himself, well, I suppose I'm back somewhere in Z City. Never seen that hero on that cheesy poster before, though. Probably some popular A rank. Saitama walked out of the alleyway and began wandering through the nearby street. He strolled about in his yellow jumpsuit, taking in the vibrant atmosphere that felt familiar yet new. The architecture was different from Sea City, with soaring buildings adorned with colorful billboards promoting various heroes, their symbols emblazoned across every surface. As he ambled along, the sounds of chatter and laughter faded into the background, replaced by a sudden, loud commotion ahead. Curiosity raised, Saitama followed the noise, pushing through a gathered crowd. His interest heightened as he caught sight of an intense battle unfolding before his eyes. At the center stood Eraserhead, an underground hero, a respected teacher from UA Academy known for his quirk Erasure, which could nullify other quirks with direct eye contact. He faced off against a tall figure, Memory Wiper, who exuded a sinister aura. Memory Wiper's appearance was both ominous and casual, donning a black hoodie that draped over his frame and dark green pants. His figure was shrouded in a malevolent purple glow that distorted the air around him, casting purple shadows that followed his every movement. Eraserhead's scarf whipped through the air as he swiftly maneuvered, attempting to use his quirk to nullify Memory Wiper's abilities momentarily. However, the shadowy aura surrounding Memory Wiper bloomed in intensity as soon as Memory Wiper sensed Eraserhead, preventing Eraser from catching Memory Wiper in his line of sight. Soon enough, the debris summoned by Memory Wiper's telekinesis overwhelmed and pelted him. Thwack, thwack. As rocks and rubble struck, Eraserhead was downed, landing headfirst on the concrete streets. "You're nothing without your precious erasing trick, hero," taunted Memory Wiper, circling like a predator. His malicious grin widened as he readied another attack, the purple aura dissipating. "Once I get closer to you, I'll erase something from you. Your memories, your mental history warped and twisted like scrambled eggs." Eraserhead, struggling to even compose himself, opened his eyes. His sight darting around, all he could struggle to process in his vision was the sight of civilians running around in a panic. He did, however, see something to give him a tiny portion of optimism. A man in a yellow jumpsuit and cape, clearly a hero. Before he lost consciousness, Eraserhead thought to himself, hopefully, he can evacuate some people. Don't know who he is. Maybe a new pro hero. I hope he doesn't freeze in place or worse, foolishly challenging that guy. In the midst of the commotion, a gasp of fear escaped Izuku Midoriya as he watched a renowned and respected hero fall. An unfamiliar dread wrapped around his heart as he heard an all too familiar voice. Izuku turned and saw his mother, Inko, caught beneath debris. Collateral damage from Memory Wiper's onslaught on Eraserhead, helpless and screaming out for help. The scene before him felt frozen in time, chaos rendered silent by the thunderous pounding in his chest. Fear clawed at him, a potent force that threatened to paralyze. Yet within that fear bloomed an unyielding determination, his hero instincts roaring to life, despite the danger. Flashbacks of his childhood, memories of being bullied by his classmates, yet one scene played in his head, a scene he saw on television. The blonde Herculean figure known as All Might standing above rubble after saving people after a disaster. Izuku had an opportunity here. He had to become like the hero he always admired. His own life be damned. I have to do something, Izuku whispered to himself, his voice trembling yet firm, with no quirk to aid him, a quirk being what the people of this world called powers. He dashed forward, driven by desperation and resolve rather than combat ability. Memory Wiper, sensing the approach, turned with a sneer, seeing nothing more than an opportunity served on a silver platter. Ah, snack, he mused out loud. Thanks, kid, you're in range for my memory scramble bolt. I'll be taking that mental energy of yours for some fuel. The villain extended his hand, a swirl of purple energy coalescing at his fingertips. But just as the bolt of psychic energy surged toward Izuku, a bald presence blurred and shined into view. Saitama appeared in its path, the malevolent energy ricocheting off Saitama's baldness, then dispersing after being reflected. Memory Wiper's look of victorious anticipation faltered, confusion dawning when he felt nothing when the bolt impacted Saitama. No mental energy seeming to have been absorbed. You must have nothing going on in that shiny bowling ball you call a head, hero, he spat, masking his discomfort with derision. Saitama responded with his usual monotony and slight annoyance. Wow, that's pretty rude. Then, with casual indifference, he closed the distance and delivered a single resolute punch, which he uttered before launching it as a normal punch. The impact was instant and overwhelming, sending Memory Wiper crashing into the ground, his shadows evaporating into nothingness. A person could blink and miss what had happened to the villain. It's as if he was just looked at by Saitama and swatted to the ground like a fly. The threat nullified, Saitama turned to the stunned crowd, shrugged, and began clearing the debris pinning Inko. Standing nearby, Izuku immediately hugged his mother as soon as she was freed. An awestruck Izuku faced Saitama, gratitude and relief overwhelming his expression, tears flowing down his eyes. "Thank you, hero," he breathed, words heavy with emotion. Saitama waved it off, his tone light. "No problem, kid. Just another day, I guess." The dust would eventually settle, revealing Memory Wiper laid out in the middle of a crater caused by Saitama's punch. The people nearby could easily ascertain what happened to the villain. There was certainly no chance he was getting back with the damage he took. A sense of relief could be felt in the atmosphere, and a small crowd began to surround Saitama. The first to speak from the crowd was a teenaged boy who yelled out, "Woohoo, let's go, hero man!" "What pro hero are you? So strong," remarked a young woman. "What's your quirk? Is it like All Might's? So cool," exclaimed a young boy. Saitama, not exactly used to being the center of attention, especially positive attention, could only blink in face of all questions coming this way. Standing there, scratching his head, looking at the faces full of excitement and admiration, he mustered up a response. Well, my name is Saitama. I guess something quirky about me is my hero hobby. I don't know what type of quirks that All Might guy has." This response changed the atmosphere of excitement to confusion. The crowd began asking questions among themselves. "There's no way this guy doesn't know what a quirk is," one exclaimed. "He doesn't know All Might either?" one questioned. "He didn't even give his pro hero name. Is he even one?" one suspected. "He's suspicious," one accused. A man emerged from the crowd, taking center stage by pointing at Saitama and yelling, "He could be a vigilante, or maybe a villain who betrayed his partner. Saitama probably isn't even his real name." The crowd was no longer cheerful. While there was still a few looks of gratitude, many adorned a look of caution instead. Izuku, sensing the crowd's mood changing, stepped up. "All of you, this man is a hero. He saved us all. He was hit by Memory Wiper's scramble bolt too, but that shouldn't matter. I don't care if he's a pro hero or vigilante." Inko walked forward, backing up Izuku with her own words. "This man saved my son and took a hit for him. And the first thing he did, regardless of that memory bolt attack, was rescue me. He's a true hero. The crowd grew silent. After a short while, the young boy from earlier soon spoke up. Yeah, the strong guy beat the bad guy. He's cool. The crowd took in these declarations, and the impression the crowd had towards Saitama had returned to one of gratitude. The distant wail of sirens grew louder, soon culminating in a fury of police cruisers pulling up across the scene. Officers swiftly exited their vehicles, intent on maintaining order and assessing the situation. Among them was a stern-looking, seasoned policeman who, seeing Eraserhead struggling to his feet, hurried over to his side. "You all right, Izawa?" the policeman asked, concern etched across his face. Eraserhead nodded slightly, still catching his breath as he surveyed the chaotic surroundings. His eyes settled on the center of attention, a caped figure in yellow, the hero he last saw before losing consciousness. Nearby, the crowd had gathered tightly around Saitama, murmuring with curiosity. The stern policeman approached Saitama, his expression shifting from concern to a more scrutinizing gaze. "Are you the one who took down the villain?" the officer asked bluntly. Saitama, unfazed by the scrutiny, responded with a shrug. "Yeah, I guess so." The policeman frowned, flipping through his notepad. "I have to thank you, first of all. I'm sorry, but we have no idea what pro hero you are. I have to ask about your hero license. What's your name and hero agency affiliation?" No hero license," Saitama answered plainly. "I'm Saitama, from Sea City." The policeman paused, his brow furrowing in confusion. Z City? Never heard of that place. We don't have a Sea City in our records. Are you aware that performing hero activities without a license makes you a vigilante? Saitama, keeping his usual lax attitude, shrugged. "I don't know about that. I just did what I thought was right." Noticing the tension, Izuku stepped forward. "Excuse me, but I saw what happened," he said, gesturing to Saitama. "This man saved us all. He even took a hit from the villain's memory scramble bolt. Maybe that's why he can't remember things right." The policeman was uncertain of how to proceed with such an unusual claim. Just then, Eraserhead, having composed himself, walked up. His eyes, sharp despite the tired circles beneath them, fixed on Saitama. "I've no idea what's going on with this guy, but he's no threat. I can back up what this kid is saying. The villain threatened he'd scrambled my brains too with his attack. This guy took care of a problem I couldn't. He'd be an asset we can't just toss in jail." The officer looked between Eraserhead and Saitama, his expression softening. "All right, if Eraserhead vouches for you, we'll take your word. But I'll still have to report this." "Saitama, was it?" "Yeah, it's Saitama," he replied, scratching the back of his head, looking only mildly interested despite the growing crowd. "So, do you have an address of residence?" the policeman continued, more gently this time. Saitama responds with, "Well, if you don't have Sea City on record, I guess I don't got a valid place to tell you." "Oh man, does that make me homeless?" Saitama looks downward, Inko standing nearby and feeling indebted to the stranger who had saved them, stepped up with a warm smile. "You can stay with us, Saitama-san. It's the least we can do for you." Saitama blinked, surprised at the offer. "Really? Huh. Well, that's nice of you. I guess I could use a place to crash for a bit." With that settled, the police began dispersing the crowd, while Eraserhead approached, still looking slightly worse for wear. "We've got some things to talk about," he said in his typically dry tone, making a mental note of Saitama's remarkable ability. "But for now, don't worry. I've got some sway with the Hero Public Safety Commission. I could be in your position, memory scrambled and all. You don't have the luxury of being known, so all this ended being harder for you." Saitama, understanding that everyone fully believed that memory wiper must have warped his mind, responds, that guy's attack did nothing to me." Eraserhead looked at him and thought to himself, "Poor guy, to think I could be this bad. I mean, really, what kind of place would call itself Sea City? Anyway, I have to get going back to UA Academy and get myself patched up. I look forward to you getting back as a pro hero. Trust me, the bureaucracy is pretty bad with the Hero Public Safety Commission, but I'll do all I can to make it easier for you. Eraserhead said while waving to Saitama and walking away. Saitama looks at him and waves back, thinking, I don't know what's going on, but I guess this guy is important enough to get the police off my back. After accepting Inko's generous offer of a spare room, Saitama settled into the Midoriya household. As a gesture of gratitude, he inquired about potential employment, hinting at his willingness to contribute. Saitama was able to acquire a temporary working license. The memory wiper incident and Eraserhead's intervention helping move the wheels of bureaucracy move quickly. However, when Saitama inquired about being a pro hero, he learned there was much paperwork to fill. He would come to wait a long while on the Hero Public Safety Commission to approve his hero license application. I work from home as an office worker for a warehouse, Inko explained one evening over dinner. They're hiring, and with your strength, moving packages and furniture could be perfect. They're a big company, stores everywhere, and they even do online orders. Sure, sounds easy enough. Saitama replied with his usual nonchalance, already envisioning the monotonous task of lifting boxes. Over the following week, Saitama adapted to this new surroundings with ease. He spent his free time lounging, reading manga, and playing video games. On one such relaxed afternoon, Izuku joined him in front of the TV, game controller in hand. Wow, Saitama-sensei, you're really good at this game, Izuku explained, his face lightening up with admiration. It's just about getting the timing right, Saitama replied. As they played, Izuku couldn't contain his curiosity. You know, I want to be a hero, but I'm quirkless. Saitama shrugged. What's a quirk? Izuku's eyes widened, disbelief etched across his face. You know, a quirk. I know memory wiper's attack made you forget things, but a quirk is like a superpower. Most people are born with one, but I'm not so lucky. Saitama, calmly mashing his controller, responds with, I wasn't born with a power. Midoriya, I know everyone thinks that memory wiper guy scrambled my brain, but really, his attack did nothing to me. I don't think I'm from this world. After browsing the net, it seems there's no Hero Association or City Z or A or anything. Izuku paused the game, turning to face Saitama, his curiosity piqued. You're from another universe then? This sounds hard to believe, but you're so strong. And I think I heard about a hero as strong as you. Saitama shrugged again, his expression remaining relaxed. Yeah, maybe. I don't know how I got here, though. It was just... He gestured vaguely with his hand. A flash of light. Some weird black void with rainbows, and suddenly I was here. Izuku, his mind racing with possibilities, asked, But how did you get so strong? Even if it's not a quirk, you must have done something amazing. Saitama continued pressing buttons on the controller, almost absent-mindedly. Training. Izuku's brows furrowed in confusion and disbelief. Training? Yeah, I trained hard every day for a few years. Got really strong. Saitama replied simply. The simplicity of it left Izuku astonished. The idea seemed impossible, against everything he'd been taught, but Saitama's casual confidence suggested it was true. Izuku nodded slowly, his admiration for Saitama growing. If you can do it with hard work, then maybe... He hesitated before speaking, his voice tinged with hope. Maybe I can too, but I still find this hard to believe. I'm sorry, Saitama-san. Saitama responded with, I get it, kid. It was really some sci-fi manga stuff, but it happened. After a realization that Saitama truly meant what he was saying, Izuku unpaused the game, and the two continued to go at it. Wow, really? The CPU hit me with a blue turtle shell that I can't dodge? That's unfair. I was winning. Saitama bemoaned. Izuku chuckled a bit. Yeah, this game is pretty unfair, Saitama-san. The rest of the day was rather lax for both Izuku and Saitama, the two getting to know each other more. The next day at school, Izuku found himself pondering their conversation. The classroom buzzed with excitement as the teacher reminded them to consider their futures seriously. I know many of you aspire to be pro heroes. Katsuki Bakugo, with his usual bravado, declared, I'm applying to UA Academy. I'll be the first from this school to get accepted. Just all you watch. The class quieted, Bakugo's confidence intimidating as ever. Izuku muttered to himself, barely audible, Ha, Izuku. Bakugo sneered, his eyes locking on to his favorite target. What? Are you going to apply too? Izuku hesitated, but then let out a maybe? The room erupted in laughter. Bakugo taunted, You've got no quirk, idiot. You can't even apply. Izuku, his cheeks burning, shot back, They got rid of that rule. The laughter intensified, echoing his doubt. Despite this, Izuku's mind lingered on Saitama's words. Maybe they're right, but Saitama says he got that strong without a quirk. He did get hit by that memory scramble bolt, but lost in thought, Izuku clung to the idea that if Saitama's story were real, then perhaps there was hope for him too. While walking home, Izuku reflected on the laughter and scorn he faced. Though the odds seemed insurmountable, a quiet resolve formed within him. Somewhere in Saitama's simple truth was the seed of belief. It could be done, and that glimmer of possibility was enough to set him on his path. When Izuku arrived home, the sight of Saitama eating a slice of pizza in the living room, Izuku could only think of one thing. Saitama-san, please train me. Saitama, his head resting on his palm while watching TV, pondered for a bit. This is kind of like the Genos situation. I've been living with this kid and mom for not too long, but I know this kid really looks up to heroes. His room is full of posters, and that's mostly what he talks about. I mean, if I could handle one student for so long. Saitama put down his slice of pepperoni pizza and told Izuku, All right, kid, I'll train you. Starting tomorrow, we'll go to the park. I warn you, though, you have to be determined. You'll have to work hard each and every day. You may even feel like you want to die from my training, but you must pull through. Izuku, tears in his eyes, bowed his head. Thank you, Saitama-sensei. I'll try harder than I ever did in my life. Inko, walking away from the laundry room, entered the living room. What's going on? Why are you yelling, Izuku? Izuku, wiping the tears from his face, stood up straighter. Saitama-san just agreed to train me. Inko glanced over at Saitama, her expression a mix of surprise and curiosity. Train you? In what? Saitama, offering a casual smile, said, In becoming a hero, I guess. Inko paused, absorbing the weight of those words. She turned to Izuku, seeing the determination etched across his features. Well, if it helps him get closer to his dream, I'm okay with it. Izuku beamed at his mother's support, his heart swelling with gratitude. He turned to Saitama, who had resumed eating his pizza, and nodded. By the way, Saitama-san, I heard from my HR department that your application went well. I think in another week, you'll get a date to start work. Inko stated. Saitama, still chewing, replied with, sounds good. It's 6 a.m., the sun just peeking out from the clouds. The park lit by a hazy mix of blue and gray. Saitama and Izuku enter the nearby Stan Lee Memorial Park, the two wearing tracksuits, Saitama's blue and Izuku donning green. In front of the stone statue of the man from who the park takes its namesake, Saitama stands stoutly. All right, here's the technique I use to become strong. Listen closely. It's a brutal routine. Some days you'll feel like not doing it, but you mustn't skip a day. Izuku's eyes widen, his first action being quickly busting out a notebook. Pencil wielded at the ready, fiercely intent on writing. Saitama's eyes narrowed, his jaw became more pronounced. His features turned razor sharp. A local cat nearby seemed to begin to focus intently on Saitama with how dramatic his shift in facial expression was. You'll have to do 100 sit-ups, 100 push-ups, and a 10-kilometer run each and every day. No rest days. Izuku writes this quickly and then held his pencil looking at the notebook, expecting more to come out from Saitama's mouth. After an awkward pause, Izuku mustered up a, "Saitama-sensei, I'm sorry, but is that all?" To which Saitama replied, "Oh, you're right. There is more." Izuku's passionate intent on writing notes returned. "You have to avoid using air conditioning. This is to strengthen your mental fortitude. Hot summer days, cold winters, you may start wanting to give in. I understand. I was able to withstand this brutal regiment, even when I had nothing similar to what you describe as a quirk. If I can do it, you can do it too. Now, that's about everything." Really, Saitama-sensei? Isn't this stuff similar to what fitness hobbyists do? Izuku said in bewilderment. "I suppose it's similar, but it's the repetition and unbroken chain of doing this routine that makes it different. Also, I'm pretty sure they gave in and set their car's AC on occasionally." Izuku, still looking at his notebook in disbelief, was unsure how this would work out at all. No, it can't work, he would deduce. However, despite all of his logical mental processes saying this was nonsense, Izuku trusted Saitama. It also helps that Izuku was rather desperate. Saitama smiled. "So, kid, you ready? You may think this is all standard stuff, but you'll find that standard is hard to do. I don't expect you to fully complete the routine, but your body will get used to it. Now, let's begin." Saitama had Izuku begin with some stretches, which he performed alongside his pupil. Nearby, two elderly women were walking past this hero training warm-up, one of them deciding to comment out loud. "Oh, how sweet. Father and son exercising together. Keep at it, Sonny. I do the same types of stretches, too. It's good for your health." Saitama and Izuku both let out a light, awkward chuckle in an attempt to acknowledge the old woman. Once stretches were over, Saitama began to demonstrate his push-up method. His form was built up by years of discipline. Izuku paid close attention and tried to mimic Saitama's movements. Not exactly getting the form down perfectly, he at least got in a workable position. Izuku managed 20 push-ups before having to give up, arms trembling far too much to pull off another. "It's harder than it looks," Izuku admitted while panting. Saitama offered Izuku a bottled water. "It's just about repetition. You'll get there eventually, kid." Izuku took the bottle, responding with a, "Thank you. Understood, sensei." The next routine, sit-ups, had a similar result, with Izuku not being able to finish a complete set. Finally, it was time for the 10-kilometer run. Beforehand, however, Saitama declared to his student, "I'll give you a chance to breathe. Nice job so far. Now, I want you to see the end result of you sticking to this daily routine. Look how fast I can complete this run." Meanwhile, a good bit further along the park's walking path, a woman in her 30s sat near a tree, having chosen a lush, idyllic spot where one can seek shelter from the sun and get a view of the flowers, the spot not being too far from the woman's workplace. However, someone else took notice of her refuge, a tall, lanky-bodied man who had his face concealed by both sunglasses and a face mask in addition to wearing a baseball cap. The man approached the woman. "Say, this is a nice spot, lady. You should share it." The woman, sensing something was off, attempted to leave early and mentioned that the man could sit there instead. The young man stood in her path before the woman could get too far away from the tree. "Don't be like that, sweetheart." The man removed his face mask, revealing a freakishly long, snake-like tongue, which then reshaped itself into a dagger-like formation. "You've got lots to share with me." It was at this moment the hissing criminal had been near the path Saitama had taken for his run. No time to anticipate the coming intense pressure of Saitama's speed, as Saitama ran by with his signature blank expression, shockwaves manifesting a gust that sent the mugger flying into the air like a Saturday morning cartoon villain. and leaving his would-be victim holding onto the tree. The office lady composed herself, thankful for what she called a divine wind saving her. Saitama had returned, having completed his run in an instant. Izuku stood there in complete amazement. Sensei, that was amazing. If you did have multiple quirks, that would be completely unfair. Super strength and speed? How long did you train for before you could do this? To which Saitama answered, after about 3 years. I trained and trained so hard that I had lost my hair. That's how I knew I'd gone strong. Izuku had a look of disappointment. I appreciate the training, Sensei. Strength is better than no strength. I had just hoped I could achieve results in a year so I could enter UA Academy, the school All Might had gone to. Izuku stated while also whispering, and I kinda don't want to lose my hair. I'm too young for something so tragic. Saitama then placed his hand on Izuku's shoulders. Don't worry, kid. A year in, I was already acting out my hero hobby. I wasn't as strong as I am now, but you won't be anything to scoff at. While also adding, tragic? What do you mean? Nah, it ain't so bad. Besides, being bald is when you know you fully made it to the end of your training. The light had now returned to Izuku's face. It had now been 2 weeks since Izuku began Saitama's training. This time around, his mother had come along. Inko had arrived in her own tracksuit, one with a purple color scheme. Don't worry, you two. I won't interrupt your hero training. But hearing that you two were doing this at the nearby park made me feel like doing my own routine. Nice, Izuku replied, afterwards trembling once he counted his next push-up. 60. Son, is he okay, Saitama-san? Inko asked worriedly. He's good. He's triple the amount he started out with. Pretty proud of him. Saitama replied. Thank you, Sensei. Izuku mustered up between panting. I can't be too surprised. His biggest dream always was becoming a hero. He studied pretty much every pro hero, hoping that having all that information could help in some way. Inko stated. Saitama, upon hearing this, had a look upon his face, as if a light bulb had gone off in his head. Is it true, kid? That's impressive. Do you know if there's... Midway through his question, extremely loud barking could be heard. The source was what one could say is a pit bull, though not exactly. It's as if it were the offspring of a pit bull, a bear, and a frog. Hair everywhere, a stance where the stomach touched the floor, and half the size of an actual bear. This beast was barking at a pug, who only wanted to spend time with the child owner that held his leash. The fearsome pit bull in his spiked collar was walked by a smug, slick-haired man in glasses, who had transformed his dog this way via a genetic manipulation quirk. He is simply insulted by your dog's sad existence, boy. Get that thing elsewhere before my dog feels forced to rid it from the gene pool. The young boy was afraid. The monster pit bull continued to bark and bark, growl and growl, freezing the child and his pug in place. What did you say, Sensei? Izuku asked of Saitama. I was just saying, do you know if there's a bark, bark, bark? Like I was saying, if there's a growl. Saitama continued to be interrupted. Saitama-sensei, I can't hear you because of the dog. I know. Okay. Is there a hero that... Roar, bark, bark. At this point, one could see a blood vein arise on top of Saitama's head, clearly indicating that he had enough. Could you shut Rover up already? People are trying to have a conversation. The force of Saitama's angry request had produced sound waves so powerful, one could be mistaken that a tornado had localized itself in the park, entirely focused on that behemoth of a dog. The force produced from the sound waves having rid the dog of all of its hair, except for whatever reason, the spots where a poodle would have had it. The dog, looking stunned, finally silenced itself. The owner silenced himself until he complied with a meager, okay. After this incident, Saitama had finally gotten to ask Izuku if there was a known hero who had the quirk of interdimensional travel, to which he received a prompt, no. Time had passed. Saitama settled into a routine, his hours wildly fluctuating at his warehouse job due to his efficiency, often reaching his quota in the first hour. Workplace management, feeling as if he didn't deserve full-time pay, tried other ways to utilize him. Increasing the quota did nothing to slow him down, nor did anyone want Saitama to handle their workload, unless they wanted to be unemployed. This resulted in a compromise where Saitama completed his quota in the first hour, purposely slowing down the next 3 hours so it could appear as if he were working, and then being allowed to work from home for the purpose of off-site logistics, functionally going home and clocking out for the rest of his shift. Once Saitama arrived home, he'd cook up a meal if Inko didn't offer him a plate, laze about reading manga, and sleep early for morning training with his disciple. Occasionally, he'd inquire about his hero license status, which he was told via letter, email, and clerk as still being processed. The cogs churned very slowly at the Hero Public Safety Commission, even with the Razorhead's intervention. Half of the licensing board believed Saitama was a vigilante, or ex-villain, who had taken advantage of Memory Wiper's convenient powers to exonerate himself. The other half seeing Saitama as a hero who unfortunately was forced to discard his past, yet possessed abilities that could not be left to waste away. There was also the matter of his lack of paperwork and the general bureaucratic bloat that built up in the years of the organization's history. This routine of Saitama's was reaching an end, however. It was the day before the UA entrance exams, meaning the last day Saitama and Izuku have to train side by side together. Sensei, will I really be okay? You haven't really taught me how to fight. How can I compare with candidates who had a lifetime of using their powerful quirks? Izuku questioned. Hey, you had some combat training. You have punched a mugger or two, rescued some kittens from feral dogs and treetops. That's real hero experience. You'll do fine. Saitama countered. Izuku accepted his response. I guess so. This very park has the lowest rate of crimes of all parks in Japan. People think there's a protective aura around this place or something. Maybe we helped it become a bit safer. Saitama clapped his hands together. We definitely helped out a little, kid. Now, show me some push-ups. At the same time, underneath Stanley Memorial Park, there was a plan being set into motion underground. A plan that had been waiting to unfold for decades. An extremely hairy and portly man wearing a yellow hard hat stood atop a ledge deep inside a network of underground tunnels, and his kingly luxury robes, he stood on an elevated position facing a horde of what looked like humanoid-shaped mole creatures, prepared with a speech. Men, mole men, the time has come for us to take what is ours. No longer can we be content having to live underground. We will take our rightful place in the sun, the park above serving as the starting point of our conquest. Your king has been looking forward to this day, ever since the first day a human mocked my digging quirk. Little did he know my quirk turns dirt into entities that will surpass humanity. Suddenly, the earth was trembling. The underground structures the mole man had carved were breaking apart. This can't be. We're usually aware of seismic activity. How? King Moleman exclaimed. I don't know, Sensei. I'm just worried. What if I'm not strong enough to be useful to anyone? Izuku said during his usual set of push-ups, the cause of the seismic shifts underground, each push-up causing the subterranean network to tremble. Has humanity already figured us out? This cannot be. King Moleman wondered out loud, not caring in the slightest if his men heard him. The Molemen fully panicking as they ran around, more objects collapsing onto them with every push-up Izuku did. 100. Phew. You know, maybe I shouldn't worry. I should trust you, Sensei. My body doesn't look that weak at all. Maybe I just have to see it in action. Izuku then turned around and allowed his back to fall onto the ground. I just overthink so much. This action, too, had an impact underground. King Moleman had seen his subjects all succumb to the underground debris. There was nothing left for the monarch to rule over, only rubble remained. That is when King Moleman had looked above, a massive stalactite that could pierce an elephant hanging right above him. He knew what would happen. Just one more quake, which Izuku provided. Oh, sweet mother of Gaia! The last words of the late King Moleman. The day finally arrived for Izuku Midoriya to see how far he had progressed. Swarms of applicants were arriving to the main gates of UA Academy, yet not many will go further than today there. Izuku, of course, knew this. That's why he could not help being anxious and lost in thought. Saitama-sensei said he thinks I'll do fine, and I shouldn't doubt him. The training was intense. Question is, can training be enough to beat quirks? I bet they use their quirks for all sorts of stuff, while I just played neighborhood watch for a park. While muttering to himself, Izuku walked straight into a wall. The collision with the wall sent him staggering straight backwards towards a vending machine, causing a chain of events where the leftover soda cans on top of a nearby vending machine were set to land on Izuku. That is, if it weren't for the actions of a female applicant nearby, her quirk stopping the soda cans mid-air. Hey, careful there. How unlucky. Izuku looked at her, eyes widened, astonished that a girl is speaking to him. Sorry for using my quirk, but I think it'd be worse if I didn't. Izuku nodded in response. Well, good luck. Bye. Izuku could only continue gawking at her as she ended the interaction and walked away. My first successful talk with a girl that isn't my mom. That no air conditioning mental training has pushed me to new heights, Izuku proudly thought. As Izuku entered the examination conference room, the rules of the test were briskly explained. The system was straightforward. Candidates would earn points by defeating fox villains scattered throughout the test location. Each robotic villain was worth varying points, depending on their level of difficulty. The mechanical constructs took varying forms, some shaped like spiders, some shaped like scorpions. The most powerful one, a towering giant, gave no points. Students were cautioned there was no gain in defeating it, and it was to be avoided. After this brief explanation, the students were assigned different examination zones. Izuku made his way to his assigned examination area, a gated wall. Behind the gates laid an accurate recreation of a typical city, the recreation itself being large enough to actually serve as a city, if that were to become its purpose. As Izuku waited for the gates to open and signaled the start of the exam, he looked around at the crowd of applicants in his assigned area, his observations being that everyone looks confident, no one is nervous at all. I have to be the only unsure one, quirkless, and I've never actually tested if my training paid off. I don't even have fancy equipment like some of these people have. Their gear is even specialized for their quirks. Izuku's eyes darted around until he caught sight of the brunette who had helped him earlier, his eyes fixed on her. He began to walk towards her to express his thanks for what she did. That's when a well-built, glasses-wearing applicant placed his hand on Izuku's shoulders. You look way too nervous to be here, and frankly, it's unsightly. Leave that girl alone. No one needs your fear spreading around and ruining their resolve. Izuku stammered and tried to think of something to say in response. Before he could, though, a fellow exam taker stepped in. The bespectacled teenager with brown fringed hair spoke in defense of Izuku. There's nothing wrong with being afraid. All that matters is showing up and doing what you need to do when it counts. Izuku looked at him and said, Yeah, that's right. No one would leave if they got this far. Izuku's defender replied with a, True, true. We all worked hard to get here. Izuku looked him over and thought to himself, There's some nice people here, like that girl and this guy. He's got some equipment too, but what type of quirk uses what he's dragging with him? Before Izuku could ask a question, the gates to the examination zone began to open. The voice of an examiner played on a speak. Everyone, it's time to go. Go score some points. The exam starts now. Remember that the Fox villains have different scores to give, and Izuku stood there to listen. However, he noticed that everyone else taking the exam had already began to run as soon as the gates opened. He looked around in a panic as the examiner finished his announcement with a, "As such, remember, time is of the essence." Izuku began to run as fast as he could, trailing behind the crowd. Izuku, measuring his speed in comparison to the others, thinking that even with the delay, he could catch up given enough time. However, there wasn't time for him to do so. The other aspiring examinees had already entered the pseudo city, scoping out Fox villains to destroy. When Izuku caught up to the streets, where a plethora of Fox villains were, his competition was already destroying them. One applicant was gyrating his hips to generate a laser to destroy two spider robots, announcing, "Oh yeah, that's 8 points now. Smooth moves." Izuku's glasses wearing critic from earlier had smashed a mechanical villain with a dive kick, declaring that was his 15th point. Izuku was sent into yet another panic, knowing that he had no points claimed at all. After composing himself, he shortly soon managed to pause and calculate. There's no way. Everyone is attacking whatever they see. If I go up to a villain, someone would have destroyed it by the time I get there. So, my only chance is to look at hard to reach places." Izuku scanned the area, deciding to look up. There, he would see scorpion-shaped robots scaling the walls of the skyscrapers, each counting as 2 points. Izuku decided to reflect onto what he called his park neighborhood watch duty, thinking back to when he and Saitama found a kitten stuck on a tall tree. Izuku, unsure of himself, was assured by Saitama that he could jump high enough to reach the cat and save it. Izuku remembered that Saitama was right in the end. He, in fact, could make the jump. "They're about as high up as that kitten was. I can do this." Izuku leaped, landing a destructive dive kick, crash, on a scorpion bot, creating an opening into the building for him to walk around in. Izuku quickly stabilized himself and looked out of the opening he created, where he would continue to make leaps, scaling the building for Scorpion Fox villains to beat. After the third destroyed Scorpion, he began to feel the building he was scaling quaking. At his vantage point, he could see it. The gigantic zero-pointer Fox villain was heading towards the street where many applicants were farming points. This Goliath of machine parts caused a quake with every step it made. The examinees in the road that laid ahead of it began to scramble away in fear. However, Izuku could see that one of them couldn't do so. It was that brunette from earlier. It seemed that she was about to trip and fall over. However, she did happen to compose herself before tripping. The young girl gave off a sigh, her state of relief not lasting for very long, as the giant made another step, this time taking a step right where a towering building stood. The quake caused the brunette to fall, and not only that, the building the Fox villain had stepped in had to begin to collapse in the direction of where she laid. The brunette did not have much time to react. Her leg sprained, preventing her quick recovery. Izuku saw all of this unfold. Izuku immediately began to act. Unlike the other students, who would take at least a second to question whether they should waste precious exam time, Izuku scaled down from his position and ran towards the collapsing skyscraper. Izuku only processed one chain of thought while he did this. Saitama-sensei could save her. Sensei could easily do it. And he said if he could be a hero, anyone could. Sensei has never been wrong before. I have to try. The young brunette, Ochako Yudaraka, saw it unfold. The boy she helped from earlier came running down the side of a building, right towards the falling skyscraper, and he was managing to be holding it back with ridiculous strength. The proctors watched closely from a control room, scanning the screens displaying the test in real time. Among them was All Might, the symbol of peace. Observing with keen interest, he commented on what was unfolding. "This boy is Izuku Midoriya, correct? I'm impressed." I believe I have to keep an eye on him. Nice work, young Midoriya. After saying this, All Might gave his signature grin, displaying his teeth in a wide smile. That's you. You're so strong. Thank you, is what she managed to yell out to the boy, Izuku grunting while he had his arms stretched out to hold back the structure, slowly conveyed, I can only barely keep this in place. Run away. I can't help you from the giant robot. Uraraka stood up, seeing that the gargantuan robot continued to go towards her direction. She weighed her options, run away or help her savior. It didn't take long for her to consider what to do. She made motions to run towards Izuku to assist him. That's when she heard a familiar sound, the sound of wheels scraping the ground. The brown-haired, bespectacled boy that defended Izuku earlier rode onto the scene on a bicycle. He let out a war cry as he rode on, navigating the bike towards a piece of destroyed road that took the form of a ramp. The boy pedaled and pedaled, launching himself off the ramp towards the Goliath. He turned the direction of his bike sideways as he got closer and announced his attack. Justice! Crash! His bike, his shoulders, his entire body covered in a green aura. As the bicycle-riding hero made a collision with the gigantic mech, the impact devastated the gigantic robot. The metallic exterior that the hero made contact with was destroyed, the giant now forced downwards. As it fell, boom! Its joints were beginning to explode as the damage spread across its mechanical body. The boy who had struck the titan of a robot down was falling downwards after he made a strike. His body looking withered, it looked as though he could not prevent his fall and make a landing. Izuku observed the boy's valiant attack. Don't worry about me. Please help him, he yelled to Uraraka. The girl nodded and ran towards the bespectacled boy, saving him with her gravity-defying powers with just a touch. After a light tap, the boy's fall was slowed down immensely. He now simply floated to the ground, laying there. Once she saw that he was okay, Uraraka touched the skyscraper that Izuku was dealing with, her powers lightening the weight of the structure enough that Izuku was able to push it the opposite direction, knocking it down in a controlled area that could threaten no one. Back in the control room, where the examiners were watching, one could easily sense the interest they had in this year's set of applicants. They spoke among themselves, reciting names of those they found to be impressive. In this commotion, All Might spoke loudly so that others could hear. That is a shining example of self-sacrifice. That boy, Satoru-kun, did all that knowing he had 0 points. You have to give it to him. Once All Might had made the statement, he realized he could make no further comment. All Might then pondered to himself, of course, to avoid being seen as biased, I can't give out any more praise for your selflessness, my protege. This was all of no surprise to me. After all, this is what you're known for, Muin Rider. Well, that's it for today. I hope you enjoy this new style I've been using for the videos. And don't worry, part 2 is going to be out soon. It's 40% written. Anyway, see you next visit.